Hi, boys and girls.
This is a Toyota 4Runner, one of the best off-road vehicles on the planet. I did a YouTube video on this particular vehicle some time ago, and I was thinking, what if it gave it a slightly stronger engine, better transmission, a bit more luxury, and Lexus quality? What would that vehicle look like? Well, they've already done that, and that's what we're looking at next. Or should I say, we'll be looking at it after I get through the car wash. We had a nasty storm last night. Mud and leaves and everything all over the vehicle. Besides, I like to pretend like I'm in a submarine. Uh-oh, we're not moving. I think we're coming to the end here. And now that our vehicle is squeaky clean, we can take a closer look at this 2019 Lexus GX460 SUV with the luxury package. While it does share the same basic platform as the Toyota 4Runner, there are some significant differences, and we'll take a close look at those. Instead of a 270 horsepower V6 as in the Toyota, this has a 301 horsepower 4.6 liter V8. The 4Runner has a 5-speed automatic. This has a 6-speed automatic. Another difference is price. The 4Runner starts at $35,000, maxes out around $46,000. In fact, the last one I had I showed you in the video was $45 grand. The Lexus GX460 starts at $52 grand. This is the luxury model loaded up with all the goodies. There's your total. There's also a difference in fuel economy. The lighter 4Runner gets 17 mpg to 20 mpg with an average of 18. This is a lot heavier vehicle, even using premium fuel and a better transmission. We're talking 15 in the city, 18 on the highway with a 16 overall rating. Before we step in the cabin, I want to try out these headlights. Very fancy looking. Let's go out in the dark and see what they do. It's dark enough. Let's see what these fancy headlights do. Are the brights on? I don't think so. Yeah, now they are. Ooh, I'm blinded. And I see the Lexus emblem lights up in the door panel, or rocker panels. To remind you, you bought a Lexus. Here we have the low beam on a building 100 feet away, very bright, although a bit low from the ground. Go to the high beam. Plenty of height. Here we have the low beam on a fence 100 feet away. Bright, but a bit low to the ground. High beam. Plenty of height. And bright. Here we have the brights on the building 300 feet away. Really nice. Good spread, good height, good brightness. No complaints here. These are fantastic lights. Go to low beam. Reaches out about 80% of the way. More than adequate for city driving for sure. And on the backcountry roads, no issues. And in case you're curious, this is what the rear view camera looks like. And as you can see, a bit on the grainy side, but like I said earlier, this is a 9-year-old design, so we have some dated technology here, but not that big a deal. You would think for 62 grand the headlights would swivel with the steering wheel, but I guess that's not going to happen. That's okay, they're bright enough. As a rule, I don't like sissy steps on a 4x4, but they're pretty well integrated in the body, so I won't complain too much. So let's step inside and see what we've got here. Every time you turn this vehicle on, you get this stupid ass warning that you have to disconnect. I'm really sick of looking at it. Go away. There. Also, to adjust the climate system, you have to get on the screen and then do what you got to do instead of having buttons down on the bottom. It's time consuming and awkward, but you got to remember the last time they redesigned the GX460 was back in 2010, so we're dealing with a slightly dated system here. If you order the luxury edition of the GX, as you should, you get the air suspension, low, medium, high. That's the height you can raise it at. Normal, comfort, sport modes. For off-roading, four-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive low. A locking differential button down there for getting out of rough situations. Lots of room in the glove box, but only if you take out that super thick owner's manual that's wider than a phone book. Toss that in the back somewhere. The rear door on this vehicle is not raised up. Instead, it opens to the side like so. According to the owner's book, if you fold down all the seats, you can get 65 cubic feet of space. If you press the magic buttons on the panel here, instead of a rear cargo area behind the second row seat, presto, you'll get a third row of seating capacity. And I'm surprised you can actually fit 2 real people back here. Actually has leg room. I'm impressed. My only real beef with these third row seats is the fact they're power operated, which means they're way too slow to go down, way too slow to go up, especially when you're standing out in the rain or bad weather. If they were manual, they could pop down in a couple seconds, go up in a couple seconds. But I guess if you want a luxury vehicle, you'd rather push a button than do all that strenuous work. And the fact the electric motor is at a bunch of weight, this vehicle's so heavy anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. So anyway, that's what you get. Okay, first half of the video, show and tell, that's over. Second half, we're going to go out and do some driving. Rack up lots of miles, get the performance, fuel economy, do some off-roading, etc. One of the first things you'll notice when you start driving the GX is the instrument cluster is very well designed, lots of useful information. That's the good news. The bad news, like most Lexus and Toyota products, they have this plastic cover. Not a problem now, but it can be real soon if you're driving out in the sun, as I will demonstrate. In this position, you can see the glare blocking out the view of many of the readings. Here's another angle. Can you read any of this information? I sure can't. Here's the worst case scenario. It only happens at high noon. Here's what puzzles me. Toyota and Lexus spend billions of dollars developing these vehicles, from the basic prototype to production vehicles and the test and prototype test tracks where they drive them for 6 months to a year before they put them on the road. And did anyone notice this? And what about all the automotive testers and magazines and YouTube? They drive these. Did they notice this, or did they notice it and not just say anything? I seem to be the only person on the planet that knows this and says something about it, so it's not a deal killer. It only happens at certain angles of the sun and certain times of the day, like so. It's just annoying and really no reason to be there. Since we're in the process of turning the steering wheel, I might as well mention the power steering system. And a lot of people feel it's not very good because it doesn't have much response and feedback. Yeah, true, but then again, this is a truck, not a unibody, a body on frame. So I'll give it a pass. It actually doesn't feel that bad. If you read the reviews of the GX460, one of the big complaints they will talk about is the stiff ride, complaining it rides like a truck. Well, we already discussed that. It is a truck. But it's only a problem if you get the base 52 grand vehicle. If you get the deluxe model, like this, with the luxury package, you have the air suspension, totally different vehicle. very smooth, very comfortable. As we do in all my vehicle tests, we're going to take some mild speed bumps around 20 to 25 miles per hour to evaluate the suspension performance on impacts. I'm going to cheat and put it in the comfort mode after this guy gets out of my way. By the way, if you hear some thumping, it's some gear I've got in the back, not the vehicle. Here comes bump number 1. Very smooth. Didn't feel a thing. Number 2, 25 miles per hour. Number 3. Here comes the big nasty one. Heard the gear bouncing around the back, but the suspension was still pretty smooth. Let's do a second run, and this time I'll put it in sport mode. Plus I took all that junk out of the back, so we won't have all that rattling noises. Bump number 1. Still pretty smooth. Number 2. Number 3. And the big nasty one coming up at 30 miles per hour. Bunch of tire thumping in the back, but the suspension is still pretty smooth. You have to keep in mind this is a short wheelbase vehicle. Here's the bottom line, guys. If you're going to order one of these, don't short sell yourself. Order the deluxe model with the air suspension. Makes all the difference in the world as far as ride comfort. Plus, if you're planning on taking the GX off-road, which is what it's designed for, if you're not going to, what'd you buy one for in the first place? The air suspension raises the vehicle for ground clearance, so you don't bang on big rocks. So that's another reason to get it. This vehicle was delivered with 3,000 miles on the clock with a 15.4 mpg average. Sounds about right. We've been doing a lot of testing, 0 to 60 times and the like. Heavy city traffic, I'm sure it's a lot less. Ooh. Well, we racking up a lot more miles to see what we get, so don't go away. Driving in the seat certainly doesn't help. And I think it'd be nice if we had a bigger gas tank, but we don't. This is the part of the video I like doing, starting a nice long day trip, getting some fuel economy readings, performance evaluations, and taking it off-road. So sit back and enjoy the ride, especially since you're not paying for the gas. I'm going to stop at the ranch house, pick up some supplies, and we'll be on our way. Wow, I'm going to fire the maid. She hasn't been cleaning up lately. What a disgrace. Ooh, beer. We just completed 161 miles on the freeway, around 75 miles per hour. Got 17.0, not bad considering. Now we're going to get off the pavement and hit some dirt and do some four-wheeling. So let's do it. This air suspension is doing a great job of absorbing the impacts. Got a lot of ruts on this road. But even though we're bouncing around, the ride is still pretty smooth. I'm not feeling too much. We're going down to this canyon because I see a ghost town. Let's go check it out. Nice and cool outside today. We're at the ghost town of Swansea, or Swansea, depending on how you pronounce it. And here's the old miners' cabins from the 1890s. What a nice looking bed. Good time to go out and take a nap. Let's take a little stroll up the hill and check out the bricks. All those bricks and no frame, what could go wrong? Got a nice crack there. Yes, I showed this in my other Ford F-150. Or was it the F-250 video 2 months ago? If you saw that video, then you get to see this again. Well, it's time to pack up and continue this video driving, so say goodbye to the ghost town. We're going to enter Dead Man's Canyon. People come in, but sometimes they don't come out. We have some deep sand out here, but with locking differential and four-wheel drive low, we're doing just fine. But this is a body-on-frame SUV designed for this type of terrain, so you would expect it to do just fine, right? We've racked up almost 200 miles. It's not getting any cooler. This optional air suspension does a great job of raising ground clearance so you don't hit rocks. Comes in very handy. That brings up 2 points. Number one, if you're going to get a Lexus GX, do yourself a favor. Don't get the base version without the air suspension. It's like having a hot dog without the bun. Makes a big difference in ride quality and the off-road ability. Number two, this is a body-on-frame vehicle made for heavy-duty off-roading, along with your buddies with their Jeeps and Range Rovers. If you're not going to go off-roading, don't buy a GX. You're wasting your money. Get an RX Lexus instead, with the lighter unibodies, better economy, lighter, soft ride. This is intended for off-road first, and a very good one. We do have some Lexus RX videos coming up at the end of this video. We'll have links for that. In the meantime, I like to think of this as the Super 4Runner. If you ever wondered what a Toyota 4Runner with a V6 would be like if you jammed a V8 in it and got an air suspension, well, you don't have to guess anymore. Just get this Lexus GX and away you go. This vehicle has great traction in the sand and dirt, especially when taking corners at high speed. A lot of other off-roaders, you couldn't drive this fast. Not safely, anyway. We did a lot of off-roading footage, but we need to delete it to keep the video short. So we're going to get back on the pavement, get some highway miles, and go from there. We're back to civilization on real live asphalt. I'm going to pull over, see what the figures say as far as fuel economy and mileage. So let's do that right now. The goal of this trip today was to rack up around 400 miles in approximately 10 hours. Since we did around 30% of our driving off-road, the time took a bit more than we expected. And we fell short of the mileage by 20 miles, a bit less than expected. I'm curious to see what the fuel economy is going to be. 16.3, I think that's more than reasonable. If you watched the video this far, you might as well stick around for our last fuel economy test. Around 100 miles, cruising at around 75 miles per hour. Let's give it a go. Just for the record, this vehicle requires super premium fuel. I did run around 80 miles on standard regular unleaded to see what would happen, and I lost a lot of power. So I think super premium is going to be the rule of the day on this particular vehicle. We're coming to the end of our trip. We'll pull over and read the numbers. I did a lot more passing than I anticipated. In spite of that, out of our 100-mile trip, we still got 18.2 mpg. Sounds reasonable to me. Our goal was to crank up 700 miles on the clock in 1 week, and looks like we just made it. Plus a few more. So it's time to wrap up this video. Look, here's the bottom line. If you want a mid-size SUV with body-on-frame construction designed specifically to go off-road, your choices are rather limited. You could get a Land Rover, but they're just as expensive as this Lexus and won't last anywhere as long, that's for sure. There's always a Jeep, but the day of the 25 grand Wrangler is long gone. I don't think I've had a Wrangler in the past couple of years that wasn't at least 50 grand. I still think the Toyota 4Runner is still king of the off-roads, but I'd like a little more power than a V6 and something a little more sophisticated and luxurious. This brings us full circle back to the Lexus GX460 we're driving here. I prefer to think of it as a Toyota 4Runner on steroids. Bigger engine, more luxury, better suspension, if you get the air suspension that is, and you should. And it's not cheap, but it's very, very nice. Here are some links to other off-road vehicles we've driven. Just click and watch. And subscribe. I need the gas money.